Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Bruce Frisco. Todd Battis is off this week. It is Wednesday, the 1st of April. This is CTV News. Tonight, digging deeper. The rate hike approved. New Brunswickers will pay more for power. Hard to swallow. Beer tax increase takes effect with the calendar change.
And a second weather front will return an icy mix of weather to parts of the Maritimes Friday.
Live from our Maritimes News Center, this is CTV News at 6. Here is Bruce Frisco.
Good evening. Like their neighbors next door in Nova Scotia, New Brunswickers will be paying more for electricity this year. NB Power's request to once again hike its rates has been approved by the province's Energy and Utilities Board. The board admits it was not a decision made lightly, but there isn't much choice in the matter. Here's CTV's Nick Moore.
The New Brunswick Energy and Utilities Board has approved NB Power's request for a 4.75% rate increase in 2026-27. Today's EUB decision says the board is acutely aware of the effect of increased rates on NB Power's customers, but cannot arbitrarily reduce rates to punish the utility for past shortcomings. For better or worse, NB Power's current financial circumstances cannot be ignored.
Raising rates is always our last resort. The increases in our rate ask were related to grid infrastructure, security and safety, and long-term reliability of our grid.
NB Power says the rate increase will add nearly $11 a month for the average residential customer. Utility CEO Lori Clark says it is still to be determined when the increase will officially take effect.
I'm hoping it's sometime in April, but I really don't have, like I said, we just got the decision a couple of hours ago, and we'll take the time. We have to get back to the EUB and understand what was allowed and what they didn't allow in the decision, and from there we'll decide the timing of the rate increase.
The board previously denied NB Power's application to implement a rate rider to recover revenue otherwise lost should rates be implemented after April 1st.
The board in its decision acknowledged that energy poverty is worsening, that the impacts are disproportionate, but there's still no comprehensive response to affordability.
Randy Hatfield of the Human Development Council was an intervener at EUB hearings a few weeks ago considering the rate increase. He says the EUB has made it clear in this decision that it is unable to introduce any affordability measures.
So our advocacy efforts now will lie with the province in trying to get them to introduce something like a low-income rate rebate.
NB Power's CEO is also responding today for the first time to that major review of the utility released on Monday, which makes a total of 50 recommendations to address the utility's $6 billion debt, aging infrastructure, and unplanned outages at Point Lepreau.
I think they're very solid recommendations, and this is what I would call our once in a lifetime, once in a 100-year opportunity.
Lori Clark says the utility will be working closely with the provincial government to develop an action plan from the review, expected before the end of May. Nick Moore, CTV News, Fredericton.
People in the Halifax area being hit with higher property taxes as well. As we told you yesterday, City Council passed a rate hike of 7.5% in the budget. As CTV's Callum Smith tells us tonight, more than a few residents are not very happy with that news.
People like John Lavoie are updating their budgets after city councillors did the same Tuesday. After months of scrutinizing items line by line and some tense debates, council ratified its spending plan.
For some people, that $200 or $300 in property tax increase is going to make a big difference.
Municipal taxes are going up 9.5%, but weighted against provincial and mandatory contributions, the final bill increase is 7.5%, or $284 more for the average single-family home. For some people we spoke to, the accumulation is the frustration.
Considering all of the hikes in literally every aspect of our lives, it just feels like another increase, another drop in the bucket. It's almost desensitizing to a sense that, you know, it's just another number, another increase.
I think it's pretty steep for a lot of people. I think everything's going up at the moment. Price of gas is going up. I think it's going to tax a lot of people more than what it should be doing.
The budget includes funding for the Windsor Street Exchange redevelopment, 10 new firefighters, fast-tracking 10 new transit buses, and a focus on limiting debt. Some argued spending money on things like transit will help make life more affordable, while others said it's about fair taxes, not the lowest taxes. The mayor and 2 councillors voted against the budget, including Sean Cleary. He tells CTV News Today that's in part due to increasing transit fares, saying the core transit service plan doesn't go far enough, and concerns about continuously rising police budgets.
On balance, when I look at all of those combined, it just added up to too many cons and not enough pros for me to support this year's budget.
But it passed 14-3 and makes for tougher decisions for some.
My grocery list is getting slimmer, and I'm being more picky about what I'm getting. It's just frustrating. My taxes are definitely have increased since last year, but my pensions haven't.
Callum Smith, CTV News, Dartmouth.
Okay, here's a live look at downtown Charlottetown, where it's currently a -1. Good opportunity to get our first look at the forecast, and for that we go to Kaylin Mitchell in the CTV Atlantic Weather Center. I guess the last of that storm, whatever you want to call it, from last night, that's on now.
Yes.
But it could be another one on the way or something.
Very similar weather system coming up on Friday of this week. And I did want to start off with some reports from this latest mix of some snow, ice pelts, freezing rain, and rain that made its way across the Maritimes. Did look like some pretty slippery conditions there around parts of Charlottetown. And just looking at this map here and for the reports, areas highlighted in through the white, mostly through northern areas of New Brunswick, picked up mostly snow and ice pelts. But you can see there some of those accumulations ranged up between 8 and 15 centimeters. Now, areas that I've highlighted here in through the pink, including around the Fredericton area, Moncton, parts of Prince Edward Island, north and east of Nova Scotia. That's where it was a more significant and prolonged mixture of not only some ice pellets, but also freezing rain. And that created very, very slick conditions. Fredericton, about 5 centimeters of snow and ice pellets, followed up by freezing rain. Moncton, about 3 centimeters of snow and ice pellets, followed up by freezing rain, and about 5 centimeters of snow and ice pellets around Charlottetown and Prince Edward Island. Into the north and east of Nova Scotia, basically the precipitation amounts coming in the form of millimeters, but it would have been a combination there of ice pelts and freezing rain as well. And then it was mostly rain into western areas of Nova Scotia as well as around some parts of the southwest of New Brunswick. So quite a mix of precipitation from that system. And again, Friday's weather in a lot of respects looking very, very similar. Temperatures right now around the Maritimes, mostly sitting a few degrees below to a few degrees above the freezing mark, a little bit milder into the southwest of Nova Scotia. Just as a heads up, though, as we move through tonight, temperatures across the region are going to be falling back to and below freezing, even where temperatures are a little bit milder right now, so be careful about any wet spots, turning icy as we move through the night. There's a lot of cloud cover still around and throughout the night. Some patchy light flurries or a little bit of freezing drizzle still possible. I know there's some freezing drizzle still ongoing for a few areas of Cape Breton. And then zooming out on our radar and satellite picture, I can show you where our next weather system is developing, and that right now is in the western United States. This is going to be another Colorado low. It'll be developing there, making its way across the U.S. Midwest and towards southern Ontario. And then for the end of this week on Friday, Good Friday, it is going to be pushing a warm front into the Maritimes. And once again, that type of weather system will bring us, in some cases, that snowy and icy mix. I will talk about it, though, in more detail when I come back a little bit later on. Bruce.
Yeah, 15 or 20 minutes or so. Yeah. Thank you, Caitlin. And it was, in fact, a last gasp from Old Man Winter in a large swath of New Brunswick last night and into this morning. CTV's Derek Haggett has more now on the icy, slushy, and snowy conditions.
It was a gut punch for many who woke up to frozen vehicles on the first day of April. The freezing rain closed schools and caused confusion and disbelief for some in Greater Moncton.
I thought it was over. I really did. I thought it was like, you know, the first day of fishing season starts in Nova Scotia, the 1st of April. And, you know, like here we are, right?
Well, that was a surprise today, but I'm happy that we didn't lose any power.
Personally, I'm a Maritimer. I actually like it.
The Moncton area had about 3 centimeters of snow yesterday afternoon into early evening. That snow turned to a mix of ice pellets and freezing rain that lasted until mid-morning. The combination created some very slippery conditions on roads and highways.
They're not good at all. They're terrible.
It's not too bad. I think it's a bit not good to drive in, but I'm not driving, so.
The Moncton Fire Department responded to 15 motor vehicle crashes in a 24-hour stretch starting around 1 p.m. yesterday.
Yeah, I'd say the majority is weather related. So we started to see the increase. The number of calls came in a little higher as the weather was getting worse. So it seemed the weather was a huge factor.
Snow and ice pellets added up to about 5 centimeters in the Fredericton area before it turned to freezing rain. The system was snowier in northern parts of New Brunswick. Areas between Bathurst and Campbellton picked up amounts of 8 to 15 centimeters of snow. CTV's Kayla Mitchell says parts of New Brunswick will need to watch out for snow, ice pellets, and freezing rain again on Friday. Bruce, that doesn't sound like a great way to start the long weekend.
Well said, Derek. Thank you for that. CTV's Derek Hackett reporting from Moncton this evening. And online, we have a story about the death of an inmate at Dorchester Penitentiary in New Brunswick who was serving time for the 1988 murder of a Halifax woman. You can find that on our website, ctvnewsatlantic.ca. Well, this is no April Fool's joke. The next time you go to the pub for a pint or the liquor store for a case of beer, it will cost you a little bit more. That's thanks to the annual automatic increase of the federal government's beer tax, which kicked in today. CTV's Avery McCrae has more.
Drifter Brew Co. has been open for 2 years, and as a new business, constantly rising costs can be a challenge.
It's another hit on the business, right?
What brewer Paul Thibodeau is referring to is the 2% tax increase on all alcohol that takes effect today. The alcohol escalator tax was introduced by Ottawa in 2017 and increases automatically every April 1st. For Thibodeau, the added cost will be passed down to the consumer.
When you're talking about a $5 can, we're looking at maybe about 5 to 7 cents that it increased on the can. And probably with a keg, you're looking at maybe $1 that it went up.
Since its introduction, the alcohol tax has increased by 18%, with overall alcohol consumption by Canadians decreasing that same amount in that time.
We've seen all the unions that work in the brewing industry actually come together and sign a letter and send it to Mark Carney, publish that letter, and asking for them to stop because they're worried about jobs.
Beer Canada President Richard Alexander says 95% of the beer sold in Canada will be subjected to the tax, which will impact breweries, consumers, and industries that rely on booze sales.
And we're looking at about $1.6 billion that has already been, taken away from consumers and the brewing industry and making beer more expensive. And we have a affordability crisis right now that Canadians, they don't want to see tax increases in any shape or form.
For consumers like Ryan Nicholas, the wallet becomes even tighter.
It's too expensive now, especially in this area with this economy, How are people supposed to afford this?
In a statement to CTV, a New Brunswick Liquor Corporation spokesperson says shoppers will see a slight price increase on their shelves that will vary by brand. They also say the biggest impact is on spirits, which could see an increase of 20 cents on average. Avery McCrae, CTV News, St. John.
New numbers from the Nova Scotia Liquor Corporation reveal a kind of balancing act at the checkout. Nova Scotians are spending more on booze and cannabis, but there's a squeeze on local producers with shifting habits and cross-border politics at play. U.S. booze isn't being purchased by the Liquor Corporation anymore, but a new report shows Americans aren't happy with the decisions. CTV's Hafsa Arif has the local numbers.
It's a tale of two trends at the NSLC. Nova Scotians are buying more, but consuming differently.
This past quarter, we saw increases in overall sales, increase in beverage alcohol, and cannabis.
Numbers show total sales hitting $236.2 million. Part of the story, what's back on the shelves. After months off the market, American booze returned in December, sparking a surge.
Overall, of the $7 million that we sold of U.S. products last quarter, almost 50% of them were sold in the first week.
All driven by customers stocking up on old favorites, but that has since leveled off. Back home, local brewers say the bigger challenge isn't competition, it's survival.
All of our inputs are more expensive. Aluminum cans are more expensive. Grain is more expensive. packaging materials are more expensive.
Costs are climbing across the board, from the additional federal 2% tax to provincial production taxes. For some breweries, there's no room for growth.
Currently in Nova Scotia, once you go beyond 15,000 hectoliters of production, you move from a 40% markup to an 84% markup. Several of our top breweries are certainly facing that now.
In the last year, many breweries in the province have closed, a combination of slim margins and the change in people's drinking habits, which NSLC notes as it records a 10% increase in cannabis purchases and profits versus alcohol, where it's a modest growth of just over 1%.
We monitor and we see what our shoppers are buying, and we want to make sure that we have the products that they want in our stores.
As the industry navigates shifting habits, rising costs, and an uncertain path forward, brewers hope to see legislative changes soon. Hafsa Arif, CTV News, Halifax.
The Nova Scotia government says its long-awaited review into the potential expansion of wine and beer sales into convenience and grocery stores will be released next week. However, the Premier is tempering expectations about it. Despite launching the review last year, Tim Houston told reporters today this is no longer a priority of his government right now. The province held consultations with stakeholders in the beer and wine industry, along with other sectors, including health and safety and retail. But the Premier says those in the beer and wine sector shared mixed reviews, so there are no plans to expand sales in the near future.
It's kind of a never-ending discussion in this province. People are talking about it all the time. It's not one of my top priorities, but it's, I listen carefully about what's possible.
Unions for the NSLC workers have warned privatization could impact provincial revenue and jeopardize good-paying jobs, particularly in rural areas. The province says it will release the results of the review next week. Some Halifax water customers may notice they're getting paper instead of electronic bills these days. That's because of that recent cybersecurity breach. The utility's Customer Connect portal remains shut down. As a result, customers who registered for paperless billing will receive paper copies instead for the time being. Halifax Water says it's still investigating the cyber incident.
Get the Maritimes top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Nova Scotia's first standalone transitional health center is expanded with more beds, more help, and an even bigger price tag. The Premier stopped by for a tour of the space today. CTV's Emma Convey was there as well.
The transition from hospital to home comes with its own unique challenges and risk of setbacks. This space was designed to ease the adjustment and strain on hospitals.
We want to go to hospital and be cared for when we have acute medical problems. As we transition through our care, though, and we don't need that acute level of care anymore, we need to be in an environment where we can have a restorative environment.
West Bedford Transitional Health opened December 2024 for people ages 18 and older who no longer need acute care in hospital, but still need assistance before going home. Originally 68 beds, it's now expanding to 178. Shanex operates the facility.
We've actually had over 500 patients admitted into phase 1. We had patients come from over 14 different tertiary care centers around the province. From every different department you can imagine.
Patients have access to physiotherapists, occupational therapists, social workers, dietitians, and nursing teams. The province says this facility has saved more than 27,000 acute care bed days.
When we have this whole facility open, we will save over 60,000 hospital bed days a year in our tertiary acute care centers.
The expansion includes 4 bariatric suites, 18 units on specialized behavior units, 2 rehab gyms, classrooms, and programming spaces.
It's really Nova Scotia Health that is identifying the patients, utilizing the Care Coordination Centre, not just for Central Zone, but provincially, to help identify for us patients to come here, and then we receive.
The Nova Scotia government spent $113 million on this project. Shanex bought the facility for $114 million. Nova Scotia will pay Shanex a daily capital rate of $130 per bed. The province says the facility is expected to save the system $1.3 billion over the 25-year contract with Shanex.
Delivering healthcare to Nova Scotians is expensive, for sure. And
That's the reality of it, but the needs are significant, and we can't shy away from meeting those needs just because it's expensive.
Next submissions begin in a week's time. Emma Convey, CTV News, Bedford, Nova Scotia.
Still to come, partly cloudy and cold again tonight. Kalen will be back with his full forecast. Coming up next, though, shooting for the moon.
Ready to launch. The crew has boarded the spacecraft. I'm Mola Lengi. Coming up, Artemis II prepares to make history.
The launch window is set to open in about an hour for NASA's Artemis II mission. It will send 4 astronauts, including Canadian Jeremy Hansen, on a mission around the moon. It's the first moonshot in more than 50 years, in fact. ABC's Mola Lengi reports.
Ready for liftoff. The Artemis II crew is on board the spacecraft. The on-site clock ticking down to a planned launch time of 6:24 p.m. Eastern from Florida's Kennedy Space Center. The 4-person crew ready to make history. This afternoon, they got suited up and played a quick card game before walking out of the operations and checkout facility. Their families there to send them off, blowing kisses and sending love. It's the first moon mission in more than 50 years. The 10-day, 685,000-mile journey will take the crew on a lunar orbit that NASA hopes will propel space exploration forward.
It's the opening act of a lot of missions to send astronauts to the moon, this time to build an enduring presence, to build the moon base and realize all its scientific and economic potential.
This is the first time Artemis will have a crew on board. There's plenty on the itinerary for the next 10 days. Once in orbit, it's time to take Orion for a spin, testing all of the systems and manually flying the spacecraft as part of a demonstration to make sure everything is working properly. Once everything's good, they'll head towards the moon and do a lunar flyby before slingshotting back, re-entering Earth's atmosphere with an eventual splashdown into the ocean.
It's just such an experience to be able to see one of those go off and just to feel that power.
Here we are going back,
Yeah.
After all these years.
Folks gathering to watch the launch in Titusville, Florida, just across the Indian River Lagoon from the Kennedy Space Center. Jessica Richardson, here to create a lifelong memory for her sons.
My son loves anything engineers, space, astronauts. He loves all of that.
Well, NASA hopes this mission paves the way for future Artemis missions, including establishing a permanent base on the moon and potentially even humans on Mars. Mola Lengi, ABC News, Titusville, Florida.
Still ahead tonight, we'll be joined by CTV political analyst Eric Ham from Washington about today's developments in the Iran war and what we might hear from U.S. President Donald Trump in his nationwide televised address tonight. Coming up next, though, sun and cloud tomorrow and then another wintry mix for Friday. Kalen will have all those details when your CTV News at 6 continues. A live look at the Inverary Resort there in beautiful Bedeque, Nova Scotia, where it's currently -1. And the snow is very grateful that it's -1 because it gets to hang around a little bit longer.
Not just snow, but probably a mixture of snow, ice pellets, and some freezing rain.
Yeah,
that made for very slippery conditions in parts of the Maritimes last night and today. And there's a very similar weather system, as we've been talking about, headed our way on Friday. So let's take a look at the tail of the tape for this next weather system. And once again, it is another warm front, this one extending off of a Colorado low. Because of the warm air that these fronts move in aloft above colder air near the surface, we get this mix of precipitation. Snow, the ice pellets, freezing rain, and for some parts of the Maritimes, it'll be a complete turnover to rain. The timing for this next weather system, well, it's arriving on Friday. And just a note on this next weather system, it's the same one that caused the Thursday Blue Jays-White Sox game to be postponed until Friday. That game was supposed to happen in Chicago tomorrow, but has been delayed because of the potential for this weather system to bring in the Chicago area some rain and some thunderstorms. Now, highest potential for this weather system to bring in some accumulating snow and ice pellets. Once again, it'll be in northern and eastern areas of New Brunswick. Prince Edward Island, and the north and east of Nova Scotia. Certainly the potential, the parts of the north of New Brunswick could see, once again, maybe some snow and some ice pelt accumulation that at least locally could range between 10 and 15 centimeters. You know, parts of Prince Edward Island may not be out of the chance of around 5 to 10 centimeters. And same thing goes for eastern areas of Nova Scotia, including Cape Breton. And then other areas, including into central areas of New Brunswick, around Moncton, the southeast, Cumberland, Colchester counties, and the North Shore and eastern shore of Nova Scotia would be at risk of seeing some freezing rain for maybe more than an hour or two before changeover to rain takes place. Rain mostly expected once again down around the southwest of New Brunswick and western areas of Nova Scotia. Taking a look at winds in the forecast for tonight and for tomorrow. Tonight's winds mostly out of the north and temperatures coming down below zero for tonight. And it's going to be a cold start to the day for tomorrow. Tomorrow's winds in the region more easterly in direction. They're going to be out of the east for New Brunswick, sustained 10 to 20 kilometers per hour. Out of the east and northeast for Prince Edward Island as well, with some gusts between 20 and 40. And for Nova Scotia, out of that easterly direction with some gusts between 20 and 40 kilometers per hour. Taking a look at low temperatures in the forecast for tonight. Coldest temperatures will be in the northern half of New Brunswick, where some communities will fall between -8 and -11. Much of the rest of New Brunswick tonight can expect low temperatures between -2 and -6. Then around -3 tonight for Charlottetown and Summerside and Prince Edward Island. And for Nova Scotia, most low temperatures will fall into a range around -1 to -5. Here's a look at the forecast for tomorrow in the north of New Brunswick. High temperatures between 0 and 5 degrees. It's going to be a little bit chilly as well on the Gaspé Peninsula for our viewers on the Quebec side of the border. New Richmond tomorrow with a high temperature near 0, mix of sun and cloud. Central and southern areas of New Brunswick for tomorrow, a little bit better with some high temperatures in the low to mid single digits, so 1 to 6 degrees there with a mix of sun and cloud and that northeast wind, 20 gusting to 40 kilometers per hour. It is a little bit cooler for Prince Edward Island for tomorrow with the high temperatures for most communities topping out at around +1, +2, and chilly as well for eastern areas of Nova Scotia. And Cape Breton tomorrow, high temperatures between 0 and 2 degrees, including 0 at Sydney, up to around +1 for Bedeque. Just saw the view there with that mixture of some snow and some ice pelts around. Port Hawkesbury sitting at 2 for tomorrow. High temperatures near +1 for communities on the north shore of Nova Scotia, and mostly between 0 and 2 degrees on the eastern shore. 3 for Amherst, 4 for Truro, 2 for Musquodoboit Harbour, and Halifax and Dartmouth for tomorrow. Same thing goes for Chester and Lunenburg. Continuing down the south shore, near 3 for Bridgewater, but 2 for Liverpool and Shelburne. 3 degrees for Yarmouth and the Annapolis Valley for tomorrow. Most communities with a high temperature near 4. Taking a look at the extended forecast, so beginning with New Brunswick. So on Friday, we've got that wintry mix with that next front moving in. It's followed by a mix of sun and cloud for Saturday. Still have some rain in the forecast there for Easter Sunday, followed by a chance of flurries on Monday of next week, and mixed sun and cloud and chilly temperatures next Tuesday and Wednesday. Here's the outlook for Nova Scotia. And on Friday, western parts of the region, mostly seeing rain. Northern eastern areas of Nova Scotia, though, once again, risk of an icy mix. Mix of sun and cloud for Saturday. Showers in the forecast for Sunday. A chance of showers on Monday of next week, and then a mix of sun and cloud. Cooler temperatures follows for Tuesday and Wednesday. And the outlook for Prince Edward Island includes that wintry mix for Friday, followed by a chance of flurries at the start of the weekend on Saturday, turning over to showers on Sunday. Chance of showers on Monday, and then a mix of sun and cloud for Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. Bruce.
All right, thank you, my friend. Wake up weather still to come. Coming up next, Eric Ham's take on what's happening behind the scenes in Washington as the war in Iran continues. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Gas going up. It only makes sense. We have $100 in gas to give you tomorrow, right around 7:30.
And we'll let you know how you could win 2 tickets to Bruno Mars in Toronto. Good luck.
Well, the situation in the Middle East continues to be fluid, to say the least. Well, railing against NATO allies again yesterday, especially Britain. U.S. President Donald Trump again suggested it would be up to the rest of the world to reopen the Strait of Hormuz because the Americans had already done all the heavy lifting and they don't need the oil anyway. Later in the evening, Trump suggested the entire military operation in Iran was winding down. It would all be finished in 2 or 3 weeks, even as American troops continue to converge on that region. And this evening, we've learned the president will address the nation about the Iranian situation, although it's unclear exactly what he's going to say. Joining us tonight to help us make sense of it, though, we're always happy to welcome CTV News American political analyst Eric Ham to the program. Thanks so much for joining us tonight, Eric.
Always good to be with you. Thanks so much for having me.
So the president remains bitterly unhappy that allies are not jumping in to support him on a war that they weren't consulted about, and doesn't seem to understand the reluctance to put our troops in harm's way. What is not adding up here for him, do you think?
Well, if you look at Donald Trump's history, he has always broken things, failed ventures, failed business opportunities, and then there's always been someone who has come along to actually pick up the pieces, take on the responsibility, and deal with the fallout of the consequences. That is what we're seeing play out here right now. This is a president who made an imprudent decision going into war without any of his allies, and quite frankly, did not heed the warnings should he agree to do so. Now he is dealing with the fallout, and now for the first time in his life, there's no one coming to actually rescue this president from his bad decisions, and now he is lashing out as a result.
You've said the U.S. may have no choice now but to escalate with troops on the ground, despite pushback from Congress.
Yeah, that's right, because what we are seeing is an Iran that is more lethal, more empowered, more influential. In fact, if in fact President Donald Trump decides to walk away, it makes clear that Iran actually controls the region, because they control a waterway that sees 20% of oil and gas flow through it. And even though Donald Trump will say, we're walking away, this is not our problem, let other nations figure out how to get their goods through the Strait of Hormuz, that is not going to automatically lower the price of oil, because again, we're talking about a global commodity. And while the United States does have an enormous amount with control of Venezuelan oil as well, it still is going to keep prices high. And that's something that President Donald Trump just hasn't figured out. And so, again, I think what we're seeing here is there are no Mount Rushmore choices for the president. He either goes in and tries to reshape the region and basically take away the power that he has granted Iran as a result of this war, or he walks away and lives with the catastrophic fallout, which is rising, continued high prices of oil, which relates to high prices of gas for Americans and other consumers, and Iran, which is more lethal, more influential, and will certainly have enormous control in the region and say so.
We hear these vague references to talks and negotiations between the countries. Are they really talking, or is this just, more noise?
We keep hearing from the president that Iran wants a ceasefire, but of course, we keep getting very different reports from the Iranians themselves. And we know that Iran certainly has enormous leverage right now. And why wouldn't they? I'm told from an expert that Iran will generate anywhere from $55 to $75 billion in revenue as a result of this war. Right. So when you're talking about an economy that was in tatters just 4 weeks ago, they are now making money. Donald Trump himself has lifted sanctions on Iran because of the contractions in oil around the globe. So Iran is getting a boom from this, and now they have leverage. Why would they give that up? They're not, quite frankly. And what they're asking for, President Trump believes, is just too far a move for him. But again, Iran right now is in the driver's seat.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has found himself in the crosshairs here. And in the same breath, the president seems genuinely excited that the royals are coming to visit to mark the 250th anniversary. Kind of puts them in an awkward spot as well, I guess.
It does, but with the royals, they're not oftentimes seen as political, but given right now the tension between the relationships between the two nations, having the royals visit actually, I think, is a good move for both nations, because it could help to at least lessen or tamp down Donald Trump's anger at the UK, which, of course, we know that relationship between the two countries has withstood centuries, and hopefully it will beyond this war as well.
The trade talks between our country and the Americans obviously eclipsed right now by all of this, but we're hearing still that the Buy Canadian campaigns and the booze bans remain an irritant in the trade talks. Are they even paying attention to this anymore, or what's happening with that, with CUSMA?
Absolutely, they are, and they have to. And one reason for that, if in fact this war does continue, we are seeing right now the United States is running very low on weaponry. We know those interceptors, those missiles, they need steel, aluminum, and copper to actually be able to build those weapons very quickly. And the president has not implemented the Defense Production Act as of yet. But those tariffs are certainly going to be problematic for the United States because they're going to need that Canadian copper, steel, and aluminum for those weapons. And so I think right now, again, President Donald Trump has made himself, has done himself no favors, and he's made no friends as a result of this war. And I think going into talks over CUSMA, once again, we're seeing Canada, I think, with more, not less, leverage as a result of where the president has placed himself, and that's in the corner right now.
Eric, we're going to have to leave it there. As always, it is great to talk to you and great to get your insight.
You bet. Thanks so much for having me.
CTV News political analyst Eric Ham joining us tonight from Washington with his latest thoughts on the ongoing war in the Middle East. The president will speak to the nation and the world tonight. Stay with us. We'll be right back. In the Lifeline tonight, a national recall for one meal kit's cheese ingredients. CTV's Amanda Debison has more.
If you have any HelloFresh meal kits, you'll want to check them carefully. Cheese ingredients, since some of the kits have been recalled because possible Listeria contamination. The recall covers HelloFresh meal kits with shredded Parmesan cheese, cheese curds, feta cheese, goat cheese, and mozzarella. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency says food contaminated with Listeria may not look or smell spoiled, but can still make you sick. Symptoms include vomiting, persistent fever, muscle aches, headache, and neck stiffness. In severe cases of illness, people can die. If you have any of the recalled products, they should be thrown out or returned to the location where they were purchased. Canada's Public Health Agency is taking over a vaccine injury compensation program and reviewing previously rejected claims. The program covers rare but serious injuries tied to vaccines approved after December 2020, including COVID-19 shots. Officials say they will address backlogs and improve transparency after complaints about delays under a third-party administrator. More than 3,500 claims have been filed, with 252 approved and over $21 million paid out so far. Finally, if you struggle to relax on vacation, you're not alone. New data from Talker Research shows more than half of respondents say they don't know how to do nothing while traveling. Nearly half of the 2,000 adults surveyed reported feeling stressed or even guilty when they try to relax. Experts say simple activities like getting fresh air, taking in scenic views, or listening to calming music can help clear the mind. The study also found doing nothing can have real benefits. 84% of respondents said they felt satisfied after a relaxing trip. With Health and Medical News, I'm Amanda Debison for the Lifeline.
Okay, we're on the scene. It's a brand new month, and some big movies and some big names are headed to theaters in the month ahead. From Mario to Michael, CNN's David Daniel has an April movie preview for us.
The Super Mario Galaxy movie kicks things off on April 1st as our heroes head to outer space for a new adventure.
Am I sensing some nerves? Remember, you know each other really well.
A pre-wedding revelation shakes things up for Zendaya and Robert Pattinson in The Drama, opening April 3rd.
Oh!
Buongiorno. Gabriella wants to give you a tour of the vineyard.
Why?
Aren't you getting married there?
Oh.
Halle Bailey and Regé-Jean Page star in the mistaken identity rom-com You, Me, and Tuscany on April 10th.
She's been missing for 8 years. What was our daughter doing in a 3,000-year-old sarcophagus?
April 17th brings horror as a family reunion turns into a nightmare in Lee Cronin's The Mummy, and action as Bob Odenkirk is a sheriff trying to clean up a crooked small town in Normal.
There's something inside of you. Let's cast her out. Together.
The psychological drama Mother Mary, starring Anne Hathaway as a pop star and Michaela Cohen as a fashion designer, opens in limited release on the 17th and wide on the 24th.
I believe music can change the world.
The big late April movie is Michael. Jafar Jackson, Michael's nephew, plays the king of pop in the highly anticipated biopic arriving April 24th. Getting my popcorn in Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
With Aaron and Peter. Aaron and Peter's payroll is back, and it's the easiest job you'll ever have.
Register now at move100halifax.ca and then listen for your name Monday at 8.
On the markets today, the Dow ended the day up 224 points, and there are reports tonight Elon Musk's company SpaceX will go public in a few months. BNN Bloomberg's Morella Fernandez has more.
Several media outlets say the largest stock market debut ever could happen in June. The draft registration could see SpaceX valued at $1.75 trillion. It would be the biggest ever listing. The last IPO that came close was Saudi Aramco, Saudi Arabia's energy company, in 2019. It was valued at $1.7 trillion. SpaceX designs and manufactures rockets and spacecraft. Here are the closing numbers for the day. The Canadian dollar is down to 72.01. West Texas Intermediate is down over $1 to 112. Western Canadian Select is down over $3 to 80.14. And the TSX gained another 189 points today, now sitting just under 33,000. Those are your business headlines. I'm Morella Fernandez.
Thank you, Morella. Now we'll head outside to Kaylin on the weather deck for a look at the wake-up weather.
Yeah, thank you, Bruce. And currently it is cloudy, chilly, and breezy out here. Our viewer picture for tonight, though, takes us to Harvey, New Brunswick, and features some of the impact of that freezing rain that they received last night into this morning. And you can see that the collection of the weight of the ice here on the tree has bent the branches over. I want to thank Roger Morrow very much for sharing that picture with us. Of course, we know that led to very slippery roads around parts of New Brunswick, as well as other areas of the Maritimes, PEI, the north and east of Nova Scotia. Harvey for tomorrow is a mix of sun and cloud and a high temperature up to around 3 degrees. Here's our day planner tomorrow across the Maritime region. We do start off Thursday, cloudy and cold. Most morning temperatures will be at least a few degrees below the freezing mark. Communities in northern New Brunswick, several degrees below zero. In the afternoon, the sun may break through here and there around the Maritime, so there's still going to be a fair amount of cloud cover around. Best chance for sunny breaks will be in the province of New Brunswick, likely remaining a little bit cloudier for Nova Scotia and parts of Prince Edward Island. The high temperatures tomorrow in the Maritimes in a lot of cases will be up around the low to mid-single digits. Let's find out what's coming up on your Morning Atlantic.
Thursday on Your Morning Atlantic, commuting challenges.
Miramichi's Centennial Bridge is scheduled to close for several months starting Monday. We'll speak with Mayor Adam Lorden about the potential delays.
Start your morning with us Thursday on Your Morning Atlantic on CTV2 and Crave.
And coming up here tomorrow on CTV News at 6, nearly 1 year into his papacy, how has Pope Leo helped change North America's view of Catholicism? It's one of our topics as we head into the Easter weekend tomorrow. CTV News at 6 and, of course, live on Crave. Finally, tonight, a new study has revealed who the highest paid athlete of all time is, and the answer is Michael Jordan. Sportico today releasing a list of the highest paid athletes ever. When adjusted for retirement, Michael Jordan has raked in $4.5 billion US. Of course, a lot of that is thanks to Nike's Air Jordan shoes, which are still popular more than 20 years after he retired. The only other athletes who have earned more than $2 billion are Tiger Woods, Cristiano Ronaldo, and LeBron James. To put it in perspective, Elon Musk is worth an estimated $839 billion. As we just saw, that may go up with the SpaceX going public. That's the program for tonight. The rebroadcast begins in just a moment on CTV2, CTVNewsAtlantic.ca. Updates around the clock. I'm Bruce Briscoe in for Todd Battis. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening. We'll see you again tomorrow.
CTV News, the Maritimes' #1 newscast. Watch live on Crave.